course, kind of the events after that. Sorry?
No, okay. I just want to elaborate.
Sure, go ahead, Tun.
On issue of my relationship with Dato Harun.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, in my life, as minister, as well as even government official, when I find myself in a higher position, one of the problems is that the boss quarrel with the deputy. In politics, deputy minister, whereas I claim not to be that type. When I have a deputy minister, I arrange, I guide, I encourage, I promote. In politics, though, when you become deputy, you get killed, so that the boss not be what you call
threatened.
Yeah, but now this is relevant to what I'm going to say. Dato Harun was such a pleasure to serve with. I must tell you, as far as I was concerned, I knew him. Our relationship was. People may not even agree, would not even agree. I mean, would believe. They would not believe. But it was so smooth, so consultative, respect, and a division of labor was very, very naturally. It evolved by itself. For example, whenever we go to a function where both of us are together, even the cause of this is especially within the context of closed door meeting of UMNO youth leaders, for example.
Yep.
We embarked into consultation. This is so much lacking nowadays. As politicians, we met grassroots leaders in Johor, in Kedah, wherever it is, where they are major, both of us will go. And almost all the time, Dato Harun has, I am by his side. We might even just stop his remark. He turns to me and asks, whether openly or even whispering. In one case, I remember it was so important, the issue was very, I will mention it later. The issue was so sensitive, and he wrote immediately, shall I ask on that issue? He wrote it in front of me. He wrote, sorry, and he gave it to me. I turned to him and he said, no. I said, no, I will tell you what issue. In Johor. At that time, Johorians were obsessed with Singapore. Singapore gave us inferiority complex, as it does still.
Yeah.
Rightly so. In talking about development and all that sort of. And Singapore was reported to be arming themselves. In other words, they were purchasing arms.
Yep.
One of it was a report said that they were ordering tanks. Now the Malaysians were so excited, rather worried. They made speeches, the threat of Singapore, that sort of thing. And the argument became so ridiculous. They said, well, the number of tanks will have to cross over to the causeway because they don't have enough space to be parked.
Yeah.
Popular to talk about tanks, That was the time when the meeting were questioning us about our tanks. And that's when asked me whether should he mention the tanks thing. Later, no, later we agreed. I said, no, it is so stupid, so ridiculous. It is to provoke sentiment, but not at our.
Okay.
What I'm trying to tell you, that it is that sort of relationship. Yeah?
Sure.
And many times, yeah, in that sense. Yeah? And I will relate to you one or two things. He had so much confidence in me. Same time, I had confidence and trust with him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've never heard him. I've never witnessed him getting angry. He's such a gentleman in that sense, and he does not seem to lose his temper. You know, I mean, the nature of the man, you know, for example, in that sense. So, let's say we go to, let's say, many a time we went out to the States, and he would ask me. It was him. I did not push it. These things, when it is, please come over, come, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I want to relate another story, but it relates me, but related to what put me, how he put me in trouble. But a very good trouble, which we both had to manage. Later on, when we were in office, issues about bahasa, bahasa Melayu, bahasa Kebangsaan, yeah, a big deal that time.
Of course,
you know, we were not born, but red paints were all over Kuala Lumpur. Chinese, English were painted out. But what we wanted to see was what's the word? The implementation, implementation of that policy, bahasa Melayu, bahasa Kebangsaan. But that more important was that that policy must be broadcast in a very positive way to the population, not Malays only or Chinese only, you know, and because of the lack of understanding or acceptance by the non-Malays, that was why what happened. Lots of demonstrations in different parts, you know, taking place. And at one time, the issue was very high on the list, on the agenda. Politically, it was dominating our politics. Now, the story, the human part of it, Dato Harun was out of town. He was on leave, believe it or not. Yeah, it was simple. He was on leave. That because of the issue of bank, especially at that time, the Majlis Tertinggi of UMNO held a meeting. Majlis Tertinggi meeting was
Tun Razak's house?
Ministry of Home Affairs.
Okay.
Yeah, but Tun Razak was there, everybody was there.
Sure.
And I, Deputy UMNO Youth, but at that time, and what should I say? Also, I was, never mind, never finished that story about UMNO Youth. I was there. Then the issue of the day, i.e. on Bahasa Kebangsaan, was there. There was a lot of angry
back and forth
within the UMNO
meeting.
Supreme Council. And me, I was a young boy, literally, you know. And there, among all these, and can you imagine, Tun Ismail was there. Tun Ismail, just a word about him, he was much feared yet respected. Okay? Now, there he was. Then I made my remark about what UMNO youth wants. What I said, UMNO youth wants to make sure that implementation will carry out with proper propagation, if I may use the word. Yeah. You know, when I talk, everybody was listening because the young boy is trying to say something.
Yeah.
I said something. Immediately I stopped. Tun Ismail, intervened. He had a very, very strong voice, very authoritative voice, and firm. He just raised his voice and said, "Are you trying to tell us that you are a pressure group in UMNO?" It was almost, it was like a drop of a pin. You cannot hear it. You can hear it. Everyone they all look at him. After they all look at me, my story is that I slawat. Then I said, I said it in Malay also. I said, he said it in Malay. It was not common those days. Rather, Tun Ismail said, "Oh, you better, you be careful." But after he finished, I turned back and I said, kalau kita pertimbangkan isu ini macam yang saya sampaikan, kalau mengikut ilmiah sains politik, saya mengaku bahawa UMNO youth adalah pressure group.
Yeah.
To that effect.
Yeah.
In
Sure.
that sentence. There was silence. Can you imagine the young boy was I want to tell you that I will relate it on Dato Harun. So everybody, there was silence suddenly. Tun Ismail, he said, "You've got a point there." That's what he said. And my God, there was amazing sort of feeling of relief for everybody.
Yeah.
So there was Dato Harun out of the country. And I want to tell you, and then the most interesting thing to tell you, when he came back, those days there were no immediate.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
He was so nice. He was so cute and innocent. That's why I left you to train yourself. He said. It's as simple as in that sense. And then we talked about it positively, what we're going to do. So that is a sort of issue, the sort of leader I thought at that time was the right person, Dato Harun. If you want to touch on his case, for example, I'm also ready to say.
Yeah. Tun, do you want to have a drink? To stop and have a drink? Do you need a drink? Because you've been talking a lot. For someone who talks less.
No. Yeah, go ahead. No,
Are you sure?
I'm going to ask to help me.
Yeah.
No, I'm at home.
Yeah, why don't you grab a drink as well? Because I'm scared your throat will be dry, Then it will be hard to continue.
No, we'll not have too much more time, okay? Drink or no drink.
Okay.
No, yeah. Yes. Oh, got to get you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Have a drink first, please. Yeah.
Incidentally, you know that I went to your wedding.
Yeah, I think you went to my sister's wedding. I gave a speech.
No, lah.
Did you come to my wedding as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
My numbers.
Sorry. There's so many people there. I was very young, 21 years old only. So, okay. So I Thanks for that. I always like to hear those personal anecdotes, because one thing that comes across is that he had very, I don't know, PR skills, I suppose. Someone wrote to me and said his PR skills was basically the best. Very kind of good touch, very good with people. So I always like to collect those kinds of stories. So thanks for that. Then secondly, if we move on then to the case, I know in between as Menteri Besar of Selangor, he had lots and lots of positive achievements, development, PKNS, Yayasan Selangor, helping resolve, a lot of the settler issues in Kuala Lumpur, the formation of Kuala Lumpur itself. So I know quite a bit about that. When it came to the Muhammad Ali fight, were you still involved in UMNO Youth at the time, or had you moved on by that time?
Actually, I was trying to find what year was it?
That 75 was the fight. 75.
Right. Oh, by then I was already Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry. No, indeed, I was Minister of Primary Industries. If that's all I can tell you, is that I knew about it, and there was fear all over Kuala Lumpur, Malaysian people would not go. Lots of stories about Malays attacking Chinese, etc. In contact, May 13th, apology was very much there. And now, hear me, and don't say this often, I think there was a deliberate attempt by certain factions, which I cannot be sure,
of course,
but they wanted to create havoc in terms of the situation then. And I did not go. Or did I? No, I did not go.
No, you didn't.
So that was it is that context now. But him getting into trouble with accusation, etc., I will plead almost complete ignorance. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, sure.
But I will explain later on this sort of thing.
Okay.
With,
okay.
Corruption issues. Yeah.
I mean, let's go to it now, because I did, of course, this interview is quite a long time in the making. And then when I first engaged you, of course, you were busy at the time. And then I did drop in and hear you speak to some current UMNO Youth members on Clubhouse, which I found very interesting, very informative. You said at the time that there was some back and forth between you and Tun Razak about corruption, and then I think you mentioned something to the effect of that it's no point getting the little fish, is the big fish that is the main people that we want to catch in terms of corruption. Do you think then in that case, Dato Harun was a big fish per se?
No. Two things. Number one, the reputed, the alleged conversation was between Tun Ismail and I.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was the time when I was Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, being deputy to Tun Ismail. It was great enough. Even though I was deputy and he was the minister, he gave me so much power to be in charge of that ministry. Now, being Minister of Trade and Industry, my goodness me, you can absolutely be rich. But I'm not joking. Also, so the APs, etc., etc. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would agree with me. The others won't, because the image of politicians being what it is, that it was. Yeah. So every time, those were the days. To begin with, let me tell you, if people want to ask me about what did I do for our government, I feel I got through a lot. I did a lot. But one of the most important things that I did was to lead business or investment mission all over the world, from New York to Tokyo to London to Scandinavian countries, in France and Germany, to the West Coast in the US and LA. I was the minister, the deputy minister, but I was the minister for all intents and purpose. I was leading the delegation to ask these companies to invest in Malaysia. And just to cut the story short, what a success it was. Not because of me, but the system we adopted. We were the pioneers of the system where other developing countries copy. The relevance of this all is this. Whenever I would go, I would get little presents. I can tell you, Rockefeller, have you heard of Rockefeller? You're too young.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yes, yeah.
Give me a cross pen. pen.
Yeah.
I brought, but at the same time, I brought Kelantan silver. But it extended a bit more. The minister, I've got visits by business people from different parts of the world. But the Japanese were the best or the worst, because the Japanese business would never come unless they bring some present, especially, but mainly they bring their own products. But in some cases, they bring you pearls, pearls, Japanese pearls.
Yeah.
Pearls are not, at that time was, the Japanese were famous for that. Yeah? Little things like that. And once in a while, you can, in other words, cut the story short again. I was so naive, I would say. I was worried. I'm so happy to be like that. I was so worried that I talked to the minister. So I said, macam mana ni? I get present. He turned to me, then he gave me a long lecture saying, you must know to differentiate. Yeah? Whether this is a corruption or just culture. You must understand it is the culture of the Japanese that to bear something present to you. Now, when you should worry if they give you diamonds or gold or something like that, and then if they are the ones who they bring their own product, for sure, is promotion, that sort of thing. But always forget, and don't forget that the question of face. If you reject, it's not acceptable. I want to tell you to carry this earlier in my life when I was assistant district officer in Johor. I had a problem. I mean, when every Chinese brings something ayam, or every time when you meet them, they say, okot, right? And I was a new graduate with my ideas. I talked to them, to the district officer, what shall I do, my God? He laughed. And much later, they were all on the take. So to come back to this, it was in context. I talked to Dato Dr Ismail. Nothing, not the way you put it. That I talked to
Razak.
I talked to Razak.
Sorry.
Neither did had anything to do with Dato Harun as far as my conversation with the personality. But I will just continue a little bit. Yeah. The one that I knew about, not really in, but about, is the Hong Kong Bank. bridge, whatever
Yes.
you want to call it.
Yeah.
But no, that was the time when Tun Hussein Onn, was he Prime Minister or Deputy Prime Minister?
I think it was the very short time in between. He was, by the time they charged him, he was already Prime Minister at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, okay, let me tell you. Is it corruption? You may ask.
Mm.
If you look at it, I will not touch on that yet. Let me tell you. I would like to submit to you, Hussein Onn need to be excused, because if you understand the personality Hussein Onn, he was naive. Number one, number two, he in effect, he was non-corruptible.
Mm.
And thirdly, he was very proper in administration. He was so careful to the point of being a nuisance. And well, sebagai halangan. Mahathir and I, we used to sit to each other. There is a problem that is brought to the cabinet. When the issue is difficult, you will bring it to cabinet. We would ask each of every one of us about the issue. Each and other one. At that time it was about 20 of us. You, what do you think? He sits down, listening, taking note, goes on until the end. The joke between Mahathir and I was that, never mind, he won't decide. And sure enough, at the end of it, said, thank you very much. I will sleep about it.
Okay.
Yeah?
Fine.
Now, quarreling, I had lots of quarrel with Ghazali Shafi.
Sure.
Mahathir had quarrel with Ghaz. These are all under Hussein Onn.
Of course.
Mahathir had quarrel because Ghazali Shafi did not like when Mahathir
Became the deputy.
No.
Okay, not yet.
Okay. I'm talking about post. I'm talking about the cabinet meeting.
Okay.
Then Mahathir will say that, these people, lorries bringing fish into Kedah, into Malaysia. There are many, they carry drugs underneath. And that Ghazali Shafiq got excited, was angry. There was, he took Mahathir to task. It was a big argument, and Hussein Onn in the middle of it. He could not decide on that sense. I had a quarrel with Ghazali Shafi because one day he was making remarks about education publicly. Those were the days, and should still be the same, but does not happen now. Those were the days when he made statement. I brought it up to cabinet. I said, look, if any minister has anything to say about other ministers, we talk about it here, not publicly, because and he was on my side. He said, I'm rest assured, I'm not talking good about Hussein because he was nice to me. No, I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
But the punchline I want to give to you is that Hussein Onn tried to invoke his own belief and understanding in terms of corruption. Now comes the issue. It is in that context this issue was brought before him, as I understand. I'm not telling you he did, but as I understand, this was okay by him for action to be taken. Now another point. A question: was that corruption? You asked me. do I believe that he was corrupt?
Mm.
My answer to it very honestly is that in the context of those days, those where Dato Harun was in touch, he knows the Hong Kong bank people talking about it. It could have been said, it would be nice if you put it there.
Mm.
That's a little one if you compare to what's happening now.
Yeah.
My God.
Incredible. Yeah.
We're talking corruption in that sense. Now, the fact of the matter, the facts relating to the minister, I was not party to it.
Sure.
I was trying to explain to you. I don't think Hussein did it deliberately for Harun. Except, now, let me tell you this. How do you interpret it? I don't know. Dato Harun, in terms of Hussein Onn and Dato Harun, they knew each other, in that sense. But those were the days also. Now comes remotely the possibility of the political situation, and anti-Tengku sort of thing. He was with Mahathir. Can you imagine the three notorious people against the Tengku was Dato Harun, Dato Mahathir, and me. Imagine Mahathir being a communist, but making lots of money in the way that he does, for example. But in that context, maybe Hussein Onn might have lumped us together in that sense.
Okay.
But that's as far as I can talk about.
Okay. So of course, when he did start getting charged and everything, what was your kind of response? I guess you were busy with your own work, no time to get involved.
Tell me what dates were there, what year was it?
So when he was charged, it would have been 76, and then the trials and appeals would have run on to about January 1978, by the time he appealed to Privy Council and all that kind of thing.
I was absolutely no involvement at all. 76, I think, I was having my own problems, I think. There's my own stories.
And in terms of, I want to try and understand the kind of human element of, when he did get charged, sentenced, I think from what my grandfather wrote in his diaries, he was more than happy to submit to the rule of law per se and go to Pudu as ordered by the law. But his UMNO Youth Exco in Selangor, maybe not for the whole of the country, but the Selangor UMNO Youth decided then to hold him in his house as like not let him go in. How do you explain that kind of action by his following or followers at the time? What do you think motivated that?
Very, very, very simple. It was to be expected that UMNO Youth behave that way. I think this is where Suhaimi comes into play. So he must be your uncle also.
Yeah, I'm hoping to speak to him soon.
Do that.
Yeah.
Do that. I hope he's around because he's an amazing man. When he took over. So him being there, that is not surprising. Yeah? And also, UMNO Youth those days now brings me to the current time. I'm criticizing UMNO Youth now. They're hopeless bunch of people who calculating how many seats they will get in that sort of thing. 4 days. During my time, Dato Harun's time, we were active. We made statements very influential in that influenced our party as well as government, of course, at that time. But in that context, yes, it is true, it was spearheaded by UMNO Youth of Selangor, rightly so. But there was no talk about the the defense of Dato Harun by UMNO Youth Selangor. It was mentioned as UMNO Youth to stop.
Yeah.
See, that's one. Number two, of course, anybody who has got enough education, if I may say, especially in law, for example, whether you like it or not, it was a decision of the courts. That puts the what do you call it?
Decision.
Punishment, if you like. Decision. So it is in that context too. What do I call you, doctor or Ashari?
You can call me Ashari, Tun. It's okay.
Ashari. I want to tell you. I want to tell you. I hope you will not regard this as one way or the other. Let me talk a little bit about Najib, Dato Najib. Najib is the nearest I can compare with Dato Harun.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
No offense. I know both. Najib went further than deputy. When he was, I brought him up to Kuala Lumpur. Najib. I knew his family. I know his father and all that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Najib is, as much as Dato Harun now we're talking about. So much. They presented their ability to analyze, to think, to articulate. Fantastic. Both could speak. They were very good orators. They could convince people in that sense. The biggest, I guess, this is used by anybody, any enemy. That is, in that sense, yes. My wife, lucky. Can you? No.
Auntie.
Auntie Ika.
Hi, Auntie.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
Did
Fine,
you go
thank
to his
you.
wedding? Or
We did. We attended your wedding.
Oh, you
Thanks.
better know
Yeah.
that.
Bye.
What happened?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Let me finish this. Yeah?
Okay.
The thing that spoiled Najib was simple. His doings, plus his wife, etc.
Yeah.
Najib. Yeah. And whether he likes it or not, he's been brought to court now. I do not know how. I'm not trying to save him. I'll be very angry if it's so. I was very close to Najib as much. Talking to Najib, I will tell you, is quite a pleasure for decision making. He would decide in many, many ways. It's meant to be a compliment, Dato Harun would be. You talk to him, he pays attention, you can be sure a decision will come. And most often than not, it's fair. Najib was like that in that sense. Because Najib knows law also.
Yeah.
Now, just the other day, one group of NGOs, they are approaching Agong to pardon him. He retorted the next day, he said, no, I don't accept him. I mean, I think he would love to be there, but that's another story.
I think your comparison is fair because I think there's a lot of overlap in between. That's why when in terms of the current times, I think it's quite important to find out about Dato Harun's story as well, because it's quite there are a lot of similarities, and they even live on the same road, which is double. It's funny and ironic in the sense they live on the same road. But of course, I'm biased towards my grandfather over him, of course. So I only have a couple of questions left. I know I've kept you more than you promised.
Couple of minutes.
Yeah. So when he did go, of course he went to jail, and then there was the question of the AGM, UMNO AGM. I think he stood against Tunku Rozali for deputy, and Tun Hussein Onn retired or announced that he was going to retire, and obviously Tun Dr Mahathir, as the deputy prime minister, was going to take over as prime minister. Did you expect that Dato Harun would stand for a vice presidency from Pudu jail?
Did I expect? Or what?
Yeah, did you expect him to stand or?
No big deal. I was not surprised.
Okay.
I know about his popularity.
Mm.
In politics, his politics. Politics, his politics.
Mm.
Can you imagine it? My answer will be, yeah, I can. Not necessarily criminal or civil, but many people, many leaders and political leaders all over the world have done that sort of thing. But his popularity was so high, that's why he stood for it. You know, my friend, before we finish, I just want to mention a very personal thing. You mentioned Mahathir, for example. One of my trips to London, Dato Harun was already out. He was not well. He was beginning to suffer from what you call memory loss.
Memory lapse, yeah.
What is it?
Dementia.
Dementia. He was staying in London. You know the apartment, the houses. He was, and I made it a point to visit him. You know, I told somebody, I got hold of something, I do not know at that time, through secretaries, find out where he was. And again, I went alone. I went there. I wanted to meet him. I got the address. I went there, and Datin was there. I know we know each other very well. She was expecting me. You know, I want to tell you, he was not at the door. We had to go upstairs. I went there. You know, it was so, I don't know how to say it, you know, it touched my heart. Actually, I want to tell you, I cried because he looked at me, twinkle in his eyes, and then he did not talk at all. Datin Salma was with him. It was time to eat, and she was feeding him.
He had a stroke, actually, Tun.
Yeah,
he had a bad stroke, very bad stroke.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you understand me in a small way.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, he was being fed. So I stayed there maybe half an hour or more maybe. And most of the time I was crying, literally. So I look at him, he looks and like that, you know. And then when time came back for me, came for me to go, I told him, of course, I talked to him. Response is normal, meaning just staring, but twinkle in the eyes. He insisted, in a way, to come down. He understood it. That's it. He was assisted down, and he wanted to walk me to the door. Right? Okay. But believe you or not, he tripped. He almost fell.
Okay.
But of course, on the floor, when he went ground floor, you know, and that's it. And we literally, I left crying myself in London, believe. Now, having said that, when I came back, at that time I was out of government. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I met Mahathir once in 3 months or so, somehow or other, quarreling with him, but still I have time, or he has time to talk to me. You know, I asked him, Mahathir, I told him, I visited Dato Harun, and I told him, please, I would like you to arrange for somebody from the secretariat, if possible, some VIP holding office in Madrid thingy, and give him the membership of UMNO back to him. Letter, give it to him. as just to take photo. Believe it or not, Mahathir did not know, did not want to do it, neither did he realize. So what I'm trying to tell you, the cruelty of this man as against that man. He is, I never forget. I said, I must tell her. Nobody knows now. Is it Salma? Oh, she?
She's not well. She's bedbound at the moment, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah. So
She can remember or something.
yeah.
Salam, eh?
Yeah. I will send my regards to her.
It was a story. That story is
Sure.
for me to mention Dato Harun Idris.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tun.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I just last question is if there's any if say a young person now were to just to finish off were to ask you to describe him as a leader and what his contribution was to the country, how would you finish this session off to describe it to them?
Well, I would think that number one, it's unfortunate that he suffered from all these political acts against him. And relating to that, if not, I could imagine Dato Harun to become Prime Minister of Malaysia. This is just not to please you, but that has always been what I thought it could be. He had that class, that ability. I told you the way that I relate to you, what I thought him, the things that we did. That was what leadership is all about. Yeah, to say in that sense. So not only that, he would be a good prime minister, would not be extreme or right or left in that sense. He would be Malaysian in the trend and in the true sense of the word. I sound generous, but I'm deliberately telling you that I'm generous because I think the same about him as I'm telling you now. Yeah, he was close to me. He was really back to where we started. I was very close. We were very trusting of each other. There was no ill feeling, any intention apart between the two of us. Nothing than to serve the party at the time, and of course the country.
Okay, thank you very much, Tun. Very generous of you, and I 100% agree, of course. And I thank you very much for your time and your patience.